Hey guys, Thomas the Solo Jr. here, aka Mustached Tom, here to review the movie Tell It to the Bees. So this movie takes place in the early aughts of I believe it's World War II or something of that nature. Back when same-sex relationships were no good. So this cover implication, that's already no good, but we're gonna go over the movie anyway. So, we follow a mom, I believe her name is Lydia, and the other woman on the left there is Jean, a nurse. Um, the mother has a son named Charlie, who seems to constantly be running about and takes care of bees throughout the movie. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself with the bees, so they also have some other relative. I believe it's his cousin question mark who lives elsewhere with their dad, who with his dad who also lives elsewhere, and he's doing all this other side flirtation stuff and whatever, and he came back from a war, but that happens later. Um, so pretty early on in the movie, he gets into the son gets into the scrap. The cousin is like, we should probably cover that up. So they meet with. I also called her Morgan because I believe they also call her Morgan in this movie, the doctor. That also being Jean. But I think for simplicity, I'll just stick to Jean for just simplicity's sake. So they meet up with Jean, who takes care of says oh, just do this and do that and you'll be fine and that sort of doctor stuff. So he returns home afterwards, where the mother is facing some uh, distraught times of the husband not being there. So Charlie tries to cheer her up by doing some dance, and so they dance a little bit, and that cheers her up just enough. Uh, so they eventually go to she eventually goes to thank Jean for her service and helping, but at first she was a little bit upset, but then she was like, "Oh, a woman doctor." Because I guess in this time, even being a doctor was extremely rare for a woman to be in. I suppose if that was her reaction. I'm only going based on what's on the movie, um, in the time period, of course. So yeah, even that. In any regards, uh, she thanks her and stuff like that, and they're just casually talking. So while they're there, Charlie's talking to the bees and whispering his little secrets, and then one of the earlier lines of him talking with the bees is "Oh, I just want my mom to be happy" or whatever. So yeah, there's that. And thus, while that's all going on, we cut to a little bit later. So the mother also works at some sort of factory. I'm not really sure what her job is. I think it's some sort of fabric making. Cause later on in the movie, the fabric stuff gets caught on the machine. But I think that they're just because they kind of just sort of she just sort of stands there, pulling and pushing things. I don't know how any of that stuff would operate, so I don't know. Um, but this is in the aughts of everyone smokes era. So people when there's a smoke break, literally every single worker goes out to do a smoke break. Um, so her and her coworker chatted up a little bit. Um, in the first time around, nothing's really going down. But later on in the movie, just to skip ahead a little bit, um, after her little incident of the fabric getting caught, as I mentioned, she ends up getting fired, uh, also being evicted from her home when she returns. So, with that news being dropped on them, her and Charlie, Jean had picked them up on that very day to learn also about this eviction. So she decides, in the good gracious of her large abode, that she'll allow her, both Charlie and the mom character, Lydia, I think that's her name, Lydia, to stay with Jean. So, on to the flirting. Oh boy. One of the earlier instances of this is she's like working on the house. The mother primarily is, and then they're both rolling a rug back, and then they hold hands. Hand holding. There is hand holding. Oh boy. Oh boy. But there isn't really much of a notice of that happening quite yet. So, while there's sort of chillaxing, Charlie from time to time will check in with the bees, talk to them separately, and then he also sort of begins and ends the story with like narration and stuff like that, and how bees function. I guess that is a huge fascination with the bees, and how he talks about how like most bees, like, this is how they communicate. This is what they're, how they like even operate. Most of them being female, how they dance, things of all that nature and nature. Oh boy. All that while Charlie's doing his business with the bees, the ladies are starting to catch a little deeper glimpse of each other's lives. They're talking about both of their misfortunes. Jean had a male suitor previously. Well, not like a actual like boyfriend, but like someone that was pursuing her, I should say. This gent had a daughter, and he was like trying to visit her regularly and saying like how much he appreciates her for all of her hard work. The other misfortune that she has to deal with as a doctor was dealing with this family who had the kid had chicken pox, and then like it spread to like this daughter character who died, so she had to go through that with the whole process. And how her rough connection with her father, which also connects to the mom and her ex. So they're connecting on a personal level at this point, which is, I'm going to say, it's something that you don't see a lot, or I haven't seen a lot, in same-sex relationships in a while. A scene like this, where they're just talking about their relationships, they're just hanging out. That is such a refreshing note of progress. Like, when I think of most of the relationships, more current relationships that happen to be same-sex ones, or female to female in particular, most of them happen to be animated, like in the animation scene. That seems to be happening a lot more and more. But none of them are written all that well, to be honest. I can't think of a single good one, if I'm being blunt, and if that's a bit harsh, well, sorry, all those writers who don't know how to write a simple relationship. You just write it like a normal relationship. Have them talk about their feelings, have them talk about their past, have them just do this. And instead of, oh, we're gonna hook up at the last episode and kiss at the last episode. I'm looking at Korra for doing that. I'm looking at Adventure Time for doing that. I'm looking at What's that other show that I had the same sex implications? Steven Universe doesn't even count, and don't even. If you want to ask why I feel that way, it's because Garnet is one character. Um, what other single or lesbian couples have I seen recently? There was one introduced in Star versus the Forces of Evil with one of the side characters vaguely question mark potential hangout. So I guess that's like the closest second best relationship right now. Question mark. I don't know. Um, I'm trying to think if there are any others. If I missed any, I'm pretty sure I'm blanking on one of them right now. But nonetheless, it was really pleasant to see that. Just doing it normally, not rushing it, obviously. Having them talk, having the sexual tension not come out of completely nowhere. Um, the flirting process is real. So yes, indeed. And Charlie even catches in on it a little bit, snippets. One particular moment um, after their actual sex scene, because that actually does happen. They do hook up, obviously. They go picnicking, and then Charlie like has his boat out there, and then the boat ends up going out too far. So Jean's like, "I'll get that for you." She goes all the way back up there, gets the boat, goes all the way back, and then he's like sort of noticing like, oh, these two ladies are talking to each other, having a good time. There are other scenes where Charlie's like talking to this other kid. This other kid, I don't know what his name is, and like Charlie is also witnessing all these other things that he's not used to, like even a normal, quote, normal relationship that is being displayed. Like he freaks out just even over that. So already just he wants none of it. So he runs off various times throughout the movie. So now that we have established that the mother and Jean are a little couple, at some point in the movie, I believe probably before the sex scene, they had promised each other to tell the truth, and the son didn't tell the truth earlier because his direct promise or words to the bees were about protecting the mother, and I guess he just didn't want her to know that question mark. And then her secret was obviously being with Jean. But that all comes to the forefront when one young Charlie is snooping around when he wakes up one day, and then he's walking down looking for his mom, and whoops, they didn't lock that door. He gets a gander, and he catches them in the act of all the sex. And that freaks him out. So he's like yelling at her, like, "Oh, how could you not tell me that you were with someone in general? I'm so mad. I'm gonna go back to Dad. Dad, I hate you, Dad, but I'm gonna go back to Dad because I'm so mad that you didn't tell me the secret, even though I kept the secret first. I'm such a kid. Ooh." So yes, he does go running off to his dad, who's they do something to the cousin, who was like in the early aughts of pregnancy. I'm not really sure why this scene actually even happens. It's probably one of the more confusing bits of the movie, where like they drug her for some reason, question mark, and like Charlie eventually ends up over there, by the way, as well. And the dad is like, "Oh, you need to stay here with me now. I'm going to take good care of you now." stuff like that. And the mom character wants them to be relatively fine, but things are not working out pretty well. And Charlie, by the way, tells the dad about their same-sex relationship to him, the dad and the other, like the co-workers there, the cousin there, the cousin is there, and then there's like one other character that's with them as well. So now they all know. And then they end up doing the whole jugging thing, which is, again, I'm not really sure why they even did that scene, question mark. That's still like the most confusing part of the movie to me. Nonetheless, eventually, Charlie's not having it, or hearing it. He eventually, like, and by the way, the only way he got there because he went over there as well by following the bees, which Oshel started moving over there as well. So, like, yeah. So, the two come over, try to pick him up. He's like, nah, I'm gonna stay here. And then that whole bit happens, and then he's like, oh, I'm gonna fuck off on my own. And when he does that, the old dad's like, oh, I'm gonna get him back, though. So he comes storming back to their house, or I guess it is their shared house, but primarily Jean's house, I suppose. Nonetheless, he hides back there now, with the dad all freaking out and getting all super angry. And the mother, like, tells him to hide, and then he hides, and then, he, like, starts, like, getting all creepy on mom character, like, potentially, like, at this rate, that would probably have been rape, but whatever. It doesn't actually happen, because Charlie manages to wisp together the bees, yelling at them to do something, so they all come back, and they all swarm inside the house. They start stinging him before he can do anything, and then the mom knocks him out. So she flees with Morgan. Shoot. Yeah, I'm gonna keep mixing up her name now, but Morgan. And they end up outside. They end up with him. And then the mom and the son start dancing because the bees are dancing, and it's like a fun little magical moment. And then the funniest part of the film just happens, where the dad comes back out. He's looking at them, and he just leaves. Like, what? Why? He just walks away. He just walks off. Like, what? It's a pretty special moment there. Nonetheless, the three of them feel the need that there is a separation afoot. So, the son begins narrating as the two make their way to a train station. Or he doesn't start narrating yet, but they make their way to a train station. The mom and Charlie feel like it is best that they move to Canada, where apparently in this time frame, I suppose that Canada was and probably still is more open-minded than America is in that regard, even back then. So they were planning on moving to Canada, while Morgan was planning to stay where she was, because the whole incident with the cousin caused her to be like, I need to keep being this doctor here. There still needs work to be done here. So Indeed, a somber send-off happens. They kiss in front of him, and they say their goodbyes to each other. Um, Charlie and Mom go off to Canada, and she sticks around. And that was Tell It to the Bees, as he wisps away the last little bee off the train. That was a nice early romantic set movie. Like I said, as far as same-sex relationships go, it's probably one of the more solid movies I've seen recently. The last one I can remember that was live action was I Heart Simon, I think it was called, which had those little moments where like it started to become like not so much based on reality. Like they started to do these side skits that didn't really fit the movie at all. So I appreciate that this movie was more grounded. I also appreciate that they took the time to actually set up, that this relationship doesn't start out of nowhere. They actually talk about each other's feelings, about their both of their past, things of that nature. There is a little bit of sexual tension early on, but it's pretty early on dismissed as well. So they paced it out pretty well, all things considered. And yeah, the movie still has its really either dumb moments gearing toward the end, or just like really confusing. So I would give this movie a solid 7 out of 10. And if you enjoyed my review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page. Any donations are greatly appreciated. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.